the business case.
Business case.
The business case.
To develop the business case.
There's also to produce a business case for
Present the full business case.
Case, business case.
subject to business case.
Business case.
Going forward to the business case.
Or the business case.
Point she's raised about the business case. And subject to a business case.
Have you ever scratched your head over the countless government projects that just ended up in failure? Well, today we're diving into the abyss on business cases, and specifically why your business case might just be a masterclass in flops.
Of course, you do realise that you're all going to flop like a jelly on a wet mattress, don't you? Oh yeah, why are we going to flop? Because you're undisciplined. You ain't going to go nowhere until you get your act together.
So let's get straight into it. So to give you some context, the National Audit Office is actually singing a tune of increased rejections of many business cases. And for those business cases that did end up being approved, there were many examples that make you question where taxpayers' cash actually went. For instance, we have the Mayor of London's project for the Garden Bridge.
A stunningly beautiful project. A new garden bridge. I don't know quite what the point of this thing is.
And without any sound business case, £43 million of public investment was spent on just developing the plan for this project without a single brick being laid. There is also the Millennium Dome project, whereas taxpayers made a £700 million loss. And there's also the £12 billion NHS IT programme, which was spent littered with bugs, as you could see with this actual NHS advert.
National Programme for IT for me is one of the most important things.
There is also the high-speed roller coaster, the HS2 project, which cost us a whopping £100 billion, and this project was essentially derailed.
Cancelling the rest of the HS2 project.
And there's also Trident, a £41 billion investment in nuclear submarine technology and outdated equipment. But hold on. Plot thickens, and it actually turns out that Treasury's guidance has been massively misunderstood all over the place. And although His Majesty's Treasury's Green Book team is actually expanding, it hasn't gone far enough. Bad business case won't just wreck government finances, it also destroys lives. And today I'm delving into business cases and how specifically to make your business case more effective. And this can be done within a few simple steps to help any level of policymaker or government economic service economist to director or partner within the private sector to make a business case that is impactful and effective. So why should you listen to me? I spent a decade steering major business cases, and a few notable examples include the Clean Maritime Demonstration Competition project, which has been valued at £600 million. There's also the extension of the Jubilee line, which has been valued at £3.5 billion. There's also the business case for drones for blue light services, which has been valued at £250,000, as well as other projects where I've worked in Scotland, implementing drone technology across Scotland's southboards. So they're just a few. I have a decade of experience, and now I'm here to spill the beans.
A load of beans.
And perhaps while your HM Treasury business case may be in hot water.
Bloody hell, I left the kettle on the gas!
So let me rewind a bit and show you what happens when I didn't follow the playbook. Take a stroll down memory lane.
I'd like to take you on a trip down memory lane.
With a project for the British Plastics Federation, and our mission was to simply roll out an economic case to Treasury, the aim to sway them away from implementing a plastic packaging tax.
Where we cannot achieve reuse, we are determined to increase recycling. So we will introduce a new tax on the manufacture and import of plastic packaging which contains less than 30% recycled plastic.
And ultimately, this fell from the get-go. It had no link to the government's strategic objectives. The case had zero connection to the government's strategic landscape at the time, and it went straight into the discard pile.
Oh, the rubbish we get in here, look at that. More rubbish there.
Predictably, the economic case found its way in its new home within the Treasury recycle bin.
More of that bloody rubbish.
No second chances, no second consideration.
You cat.
So this neatly brings me on to the first reason why your business case may be on shifty sand, and it's due to the lack of alignment between the 5 cases. The 5-case model is a framework that drives the optimization of value for your investment throughout a business case. the strategic case, the case of change, and how the business case provides strategic fit to local, regional, national, and or international policies. And then we also have the economic case as well. This is where we optimize social value for money. We then also have the commercial case, the deal needed with the supply side. And then we have the fourth case, the financial case. This is where we assess affordability and funding. And finally, we have the management case, whether the necessary plans and arrangements are put in place for delivery. So the Green Book team, which is part of Treasury, realised that their guidance has been misunderstood, and people were taking bits and pieces of this information and struggling to make sense of it all, working in isolation.
What's the matter with you blokes, eh? Can't you tell when a man wants to be left alone?
And this interplay between these dimensions is what should make, in theory, the business case, a single business case, so powerful. So remember, it's not just about breaking your proposal into 5 different chunks.
Chunks! 1 tin of chunks. Thickly cut, juicy chunks soaked in a heavy syrup from the sun-kissed shores of Honor Bleeding Lulu.
Sort of segments is about seeing them together as a single cohesive unit. So this holistic approach hopefully should help you make the best decisions and allow ministers to make the best sense of what is value for money. The strategic case is where it all begins, and it starts with making a solid case for change. So business as usual. And we have to remember that business as usual is not an option, it's a must. As stated in the Green Book, it's a common counterfactual. And you might wonder, what's the big deal with business as usual? Well, it's not just a snapshot of the present. It's like watching a video of how the future will unfold if we don't make the significant interventions. And it is mandatory because it's our baseline for understanding how the future may play out. We also have the SMART objectives, and these are our goals, and we don't want more than 3 to 5 of them at most. And why keep it limited? Because having so many may dilute our focus. So these SMART objectives should be specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound, and these criteria may help us define socio-economic change effectively. And opportunities, this is where we need to distinguish between genuinely viable opportunities at a modest cost and pointless gold plating that incurs expense without much benefit. And to make informed decisions, we need to understand the social costs and benefits, or efficiency costs and benefits, depending on what we're dealing with. This also takes into account of realistic time projections and costings, which are essential to avoid falling behind schedule and exceeding budgets. And constraints. We cannot operate in isolation. We need to consider constraints. Technical, legal, political, moral. These constraints shape our decisions and actions. And dependencies. We can't forget about the things that we depend on. So if we're designing a technical solution like a new RAP or transport system, we must understand how it fits within the wider, bigger system. And identifying these dependencies at the strategic stage can help us and save us from surprises later down the line. Now, the logical process of change. For years, we've all been making assumptions, and what we want to know is if the assumptions fit together in a logical way. Each of them hopefully has a reasonable objective basis and is not just something that's been plucked out of the air because it's convenient. One of the things we want to show very strongly on that is if the logical process of change can be seen within the golden thread. So now we're going from the strategic dimension to the economic dimension. And now we're also going to be using the options framework filter. The idea is that governments have long-term aims, for instance, net zero by 2050, or net gain in biodiversity by 2035, both of which, by the way, is legal requirements under the Environment Act. So we're going to have lots of big programs right across the government. So the programs provide the changes required from which the longer term policies So we can get programs for 10 years or 15 years. And we might also have objectives that's 25 years long in terms of the big policy objectives. We also have programs, and the programs are made up of projects because it's projects that do the detailed nitty-gritty. And it's also projects that define what should be purchased within the program for each group of projects that are interrelated. And basically, these golden arrows are the golden thread. And we don't want any of them to be plucked out of the air, and we want them to be rational objectives. And I'm not just saying that we should say on a project like, oh no, we decided this 10 years ago, we're going to carry on come what may. It's more that we need to tweak the programs. And that's what the golden thread is about. It's about joining stuff up and really getting away from retrofitting and making it sensible and making policy within the context the big questions of the day. So now we're going to go into what I find perhaps one of the most challenging parts of the business case, the options framework. So how do we get a list of broken down choices to a short list of at least 4 viable options for the application of a cost-benefit or cost-effectiveness analysis?
4? I didn't know you were good at maths, though.
In fact, what is this thing, the options framework? Perhaps Humphrey summarises it best.
Well, Minister, in practical terms, we have the usual 6 options. 1, do nothing. 2, issue a statement deploring the scene. 3, lodge an official protest. 4, cut off aid. 5, break off diplomatic relations. And 6, declare war.
Which should we do?
Well, if we do nothing, we implicitly agree with the speech. 2, if we issue a statement, we'll just look foolish. 3, if we lodge a protest, it'll be ignored. 4, we can't cut off aid because we don't give them any. 5, if we break off diplomatic relations, we can't negotiate the oil rig contracts. And 6, if we declare war, it might just look as though we were overreacting.
So we know that in addition to the business as usual, do nothing scenario, counterfactual, that we want to find out something that looks credible and identify the preferred way forward. But we have to guard against gold plating.
My money and my gold ain't going to no National Health Hospital. The entire kitchen staff will be off to Miami if it does.
And we have to ask ourselves, what is the least that we could actually do?
Nothing to do. Watch.
So by this, we mean something that not only meets our SMART objectives, but also takes advantage of any opportunities along the way. Because if it's all cost and no benefit, then perhaps this is something that we would consider to be gold plating. And if it's a reasonable benefit at a sensible cost, perhaps maybe we can afford it. So we then have our do minimum, and then we have to look at more or less ambitious ways of achieving a preferred way forward. And this should hopefully give us a sense of a shortlist, all of which are viable. But it's really important to remember that we just don't look at the costs and benefits that are associated with specific objectives. We look at the totality of the costs and benefits, which create an answer to the questions that we asked. Firstly, is it worth intervening in the first place? And what this intervention may look like. So how do we go from a list of broken down choices to a short list of viable options
on the short list
for the application of a cost-benefit or a cost-effectiveness analysis? We already have some key piece of information from the previous steps that we could hopefully use. Why? We have a strategic case that tells us what the objectives are, why we're doing it, which is to bridge the gap from our current situation to a better future, and what happens if we do nothing or choose to manage the situation day to day, which is our business as usual approach. What and where? Now, we need to define the scope of our project or program, and this step is essential because people often dive into projects without a clear understanding of what's within the project's boundaries. This can lead to disagreements, confusion down the line, and the scope can be defined by demographics, geography, or other factors, but it is crucial to establish the limits of what we are trying to achieve. How? Next, we consider the best way to achieve these objectives. Rather than focusing on what to build, we ask what kind of change we can implement to reach our goals. The key question here is, what's the agency of change? In other words, how will we bring about the desired service change? This may involve the regulatory actions, market incentives, creating a new public body, or leveraging existing ones. It's all about determining the most effective means of achieving our objectives. Once we have a clear plan, we need to decide when and how we will implement it. We'll make a sudden change overnight, perhaps. Indeed, it could be a phased approach. For some project, running pilot schemes and learning as we go along may be the best way to go. Timing and method of implementation depends on the specific project, and we need to consider the various factors like expiring assets and resource availability. Funding. Finally, we'll consider the funding aspect. Can we afford to implement the chosen option? We're not just looking at costs and benefits related to specific objectives. We're also looking at the overall cost and benefit implications of these objectives. We want to avoid gold plating, where we invest more than necessary. From the previous steps that we could hopefully use. In summary, the options framework helps us to move from a list of potential options and choices to a short list of viable options. It helps us to consider the critical success factors, define the scope, choose the best means of change, decide when and how to implement, as well as evaluate affordability. And hopefully by using this framework, we could then ensure that our options are rational, well-defined, and aligned with our objectives, thus making our projects more manageable and cost-effective. The options framework should hopefully bring together all government functions together, including internal specialists,
Public doesn't know anything about wasting government money. We're the expert.
and also specialists from outside of government.
Asking a trotter if he knows anything about chandeliers is like asking Mr. Kipling if he knows anything about cakes. This is our business. Really? Oh, yeah.
This approach allows us to collectively assess critical success factors and transform them into tangible outcomes. The responsibility of defining these concrete measures lies within the individuals overseeing the program or project to translate these factors into concrete measures. This often involves quantifying or providing a more specific definition. This entire process typically unfolds within a workshop setting. The emphasis on workshops is rooted in the understanding that they are integral to the economic case. It's through these workshops that the various components of the economic case converge, allowing all aspects to be expressed and considered. This is here to give you a quick example, just to give you an idea. This example was done for the World Bank a few years ago, and it's a case study for emerging nations where people face difficulties in securing infrastructure investments. Imagine you have a small country where most of the funds are allocated to education and healthcare because they are considered top priorities. But there's also a belief that to boost the economy, they also need to improve their transportation system. So this country has only 4 cities. On the core, each city A, B, C, D. Now, these different size blobs illustrate their relative size and topographical dispersion, and it's not easy to establish straight line connections due to potential terrain obstacles like rivers, gorges, mountains, and more. Now, the options framework isn't your typical grid, more like a series of rows. And no, these aren't columns, just want to emphasize that. We're dealing with 5 aspects, each representing a specific case. The scope of the project should at this stage be crystal clear, especially when we look at the earlier strategic case. The minimum we could do is to connect the 2 largest cities, and by doing this we will achieve our goal of reducing travel time significantly within 5 years, and these 2 cities are economic powerhouses. Most of these travels actually happen between them, and that's a minimum, but on the flip side we could in fact go all out and connect everything. And in between there are intriguing options. We could connect the 3 largest cities, A, B and C, or skip C, and connect D if there is a compelling reason. The possibilities are endless. Now, for each option there is a crucial step: discussion and evaluation. If an option is too costly and cannot be funded, it's apt. For example, connecting all 4 cities may be perhaps a bit too ambitious for our budget. But on the other hand, if an option is achievable and offers more benefits, it's up for further discussion. Connecting the 2 largest cities may be a strong contender. But here's a catch. An option like connecting only D without City C may not be the best move. It could cost as much as the alternatives but provide fewer benefits, making it a less favourable choice. And if we provide them with funding, we could assess and prioritise them. The idea is that each option would have a full page detailing what it entails. This page could perhaps include a summary of the key points in a SWOT analysis, and following the conference's decision, the options could fall into categories such as for implementation, under consideration, too expensive, not feasible. And what's crucial to remember is that we have all the relevant functions, stakeholders and subject matter experts collaborating in this process. For instance, when considering how to improve transportation delivery in the case of connecting 3 cities, we may suggest ideas such as building new roads, constructing railways, even expanding airports. This approach should be able to weigh the options carefully, and the least we can do is to refurbish existing infrastructure, whilst most ambitious options perhaps involve building entirely new systems. Some may propose a more hybrid approach, combining refurbishment where it makes sense with the introduction of new elements. With the input of experts and stakeholders, we can conduct a comprehensive analysis similar to the one I just outlined. And then what we could then do is prioritise them. And it may be the case that we decide on a combination that makes sense. Some options perhaps may not be good enough, while others are deemed hopeless, but they still could be considered. A workshop like this may perhaps take a couple of days or even just one afternoon, depending on complexity. I often end up in projects where this takes multiple months, with public sector servants really never wanting to be accountable for an option laid out. This process can be brutally long.
I have to listen to him. Oh, God! On and on and on.
We can also apply this approach to other situations as well, and we may end up with patterns like this. Each of them, for instance, these Lego bricks, would have a concise summary, typically about a page or page and a half as an annex. And since we have the experts present, it's essential to write these summaries in plain English. Whatever you do, do not forget to record your decision-making process for the options framework. This allows transparency for reviewers. Treasury ministers and independent insurance bodies, like gateway review teams, will want to understand not just what option you choose, why you discounted other options. It's so easy to forget. Or recording these important nuggets of information and then deleting them afterwards.
Shit! It's the second time I've done that today.
And actually, when you look at these, there could be, for instance, 576 random combinations of bricks that you can make up. So it would look like this, and from this, what you could then do is construct a do minimum scenario, which is the least you can do, but you can still deliver your smart objectives, which could look like this. And then you could look at varying a preferred way forward by playing tunes with it with some of the ambers. There's also a possibility, perhaps, that there may be more than one ambitious preferred way forward, and probably more than one less ambitious option in most cases, but you can work through and make the decisions in the room. This way, you can create a shortlist from a structured consultative workshop involving experts and internal functions, as well as everyone else. And the reasons for decisions are recorded is to avoid the situation where you end up with an end-to-end solution that someone else thought of and added in a couple of extra things to. Have you ever come across a business case like this? Most people I have talked to have, and even if they don't want to admit it, it often happens unintentionally. The SMART objectives guiding our way, the options framework filter becomes our trusted tool. It shapes how we develop different options, setting the stage for appraisal. It's crucial that our filter aligns with the SMART objectives, moving forward in the right direction. The winning option hopefully should act as a magic pill, bringing together all the 5 dimensions of the business case through the critical success factors. Now, if an option doesn't meet the critical success factors or SMART objectives, then it gets the red card. It's out.
It was one of those that, when you get a red card, people look and they see the red card and they're surprised. They're like, what?
But every option must align with these SMART objectives, because remember, we're here to change service delivery in a very specific way. I started off this video asking how your business case can be improved and be made more effective, and I touched on the most fundamental aspects and why most business cases fail in the first place. Here's a quick summary.
And remember, this project you're proposing isn't an isolated project. It's directly tied to solving a problem and delivering a desired service solution. Moving on to the professional side of things, we have the commercial, financial management cases. Each require input from different stakeholders. Affordability, you need insights from accountants. Market potential, bring in the commercial advisors. Strategic dimension, that's where policy advisors come in. Economists and analysts are the glue, assessing economic benefits and tying it.
In this video, I've only highlighted some of my key takeaways, so please feel free to leave a comment, because there's many others as well which perhaps I omitted because of the length of this video. I don't want to make it too long, or perhaps I simply wasn't aware. So feel free to leave a comment if there's any other resources or tools or techniques you think we should consider. And after all, hopefully within this channel, what I can do is help bring a community of different like-minded economists or policymakers, either from within the UK or outside, to converge and meet together to make most and best use of public resources. Many thanks, and see you in the next video.